Hello on the Rockers. On this week's episode, the moms of the Broadway touring production of Dear Evan Hansen, theater actors Coleen Sexton from Jekyll Hyde, Wicked, Legally Blonde, and more, and Lili Thomas from We're Gonna Die, The Hello Girls, and regional productions of Miss Saigon, Rent, Cabaret, and more, with my guest co-host, actor Stephanie Erb from True Blood, Ray Donovan, and the new League of Their Own TV series. And the list goes on and on and on with me, your favorite host with the sassy most. Raise a glass and let the drinks begin. It's On the Rocks.
And most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Lord have mercy. And just a little disclaimer, we're actually recording this a little bit earlier, so our cast members can make it to curtain call. Not too tipsy, I hope. Buttons and Bows and Pantyhose, On the Rocks podcast, a place where we're too glam to give a damn. Like us on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air, and on Facebook, On the Rocks Radio Show. Send me an email. Book me for a wedding, funeral, quinceañera, bris. I don't care. I will show up. Info at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. The show is presented by Straw Hut Media. You can watch and or listen to our now almost 300 episodes at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. You can watch us on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV on the Outlet.tv app, Facebook Watch. We are streaming with pride on SVTV and on Channel 31 on the East Coast. Hello, East Coast. The show's brought to you by FanDaddies.com, bringing you the sassiest and classiest, clacking fans and hats for prides, EDM parties, sassy selfies, and even sci-fi nerds. Head to FanDaddies.com. And a word of warning, tonight's shenanigans are being fueled by the vodka tastings of Neft Vodka. Pure taste. It's just damn good vodka. You can drink it neat, or you can mix it with literally anything. I mixed it with Diet Mountain Dew last week. Throwback to my college days. It worked like a charm. Head to NeftVodkaUS.com for more info. Okay, let's get the show on the road. Returning to On the Rocks, please welcome my guest co-host, Stephanie Erb, not only an actress of over... No, of course we're showing that. This is what an actor goes through during self-tapes. Yes. Well, not yet. I haven't introduced you yet. Over 100 film, TV appearances, but a writer, director, producer of dark and quirky comedies, the likes that have not been seen since The Dawn of Man. Well, not really. However, she did co-create many comedies with female geniuses that can be seen and enjoyed. As an actor, she tackled comedy and drama with equal gusto, recurring roles on Ray Donovan, True Blood, The Young and the Restless, Weeds, 24, The Fosters, the iconic Freaks and Geeks. During the previous year, she worked on NCIS LA, Ryan Murphy's Monster for Netflix, Prime's new series, A League of Their Own, which is premiering very soon, and the new Bosch spin-off. Films include Peter Weir's Fearless, John Lee Hancock's The Little Things, Gore Verbinski's The Ring, Starship Troopers, which I love that credit, and more. Please welcome back to the show, Stephanie Erb. You're no stranger to On the Rocks.
Well, that like multiple self-tape photo did not belong in there.
But I love it because we see what an actor goes through for a self-tape.
They go through horrible shit
in
order
to
have a taping device in their house and force their spouse or their friends to be their scene partners.
I tell you, it's the same process for my Grindr profile. You take 40 pictures and then you put up one good one if you're lucky, and then oftentimes it doesn't even have your face.
And I probably would be good at a Grindr profile.
Well, I'm not sure it's your
not.
target market, but
perhaps not.
Oh, well. But I want to talk about, you've been coming on a lot lately because we love your insight from behind the scenes, both film, TV, and stage. But you went through something recently that I was just fascinated by.
Which thing? It's always a thing.
And we're going to be talking to our actors today about kind of stepping in and taking over a role.
Oh, yeah.
The soap opera world called.
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
Tell me about it.
It came out of the blue, and a woman who is an icon on General Hospital, Nancy Lee Grant, had to have back surgery. She couldn't wait any longer, so she had to step away. And they were scrambling around looking for someone to play her. Well, she's like 10 years older than me, and I don't really look like her. But they were like, will Stephanie do it? And I'm like, okay. And I have done soaps, but I mostly play doctors or, therapists that electroshock therapy their patients like they all do. But this was a lady who's been through every possible scenario for 30 years on this soap. And they handed me 90 pages on the first day and said, here, do this. And I'm talking about Dante and Frida and people I don't even know what I'm talking about. And you have to be off book and you get one take. So it was rather terrifying. But I always say this when I do a soap. My hat is off to those people.
Yeah.
That is
certain
hard
skill.
work. It is hard to be good. It is hard to even memorize or control where your body is going when you have had no sense memory, especially if you're stepping in. I don't know anybody I'm talking to.
Well, and those storylines are so convoluted. It's like they're your husband, but
crazy.
they were your father last season.
I would read them to myself going, what? What is happening? She was an alcoholic, and then she almost murdered someone, but
was
murdered
possessed.
someone else by accident. And then she helped someone find out who their daughter was, but it wasn't really their daughter because they kidnapped her into a white slavery operation. And it was terrifying. I got through it. I will say that Disney gives you the best COVID masks ever.
Mm.
Yes, my husband stole mine, but
What makes them so good? Do they have like a picture of Mickey on them or something?
no, they're just soft and they fit your face really well. And I wish
Sounds
I
like
had
my
taken
ex.
about 10 of them. Exactly like that guy. Anyway, it was hard, and Nancy came back. Oh, the other thing about
Did she come back with a new face? Spill the tea.
I do not think so. I think she really had back surgery.
Oh, okay.
But I will say that the fans are insane.
Oh, the
They are-
fandom in sci-fi and soap opera world, insane.
I had people reaching out to me going, you know Nancy, tell me about Nancy. And I'm like, I've never met Nancy. I'm just replacing Nancy for a few, weeks. Or there were people saying, you're nothing like Alexis. Your voice is too deep. How can you play Alexis with such a deep voice?
You're like,
And I'd be
very carefully.
I didn't do it. They asked me. They're giving me small amounts of money to do it. It's just the actor's life is weird, and that's what I always bring to this table.
Every time you're here, it's like, what the hell has happened
Another
to you?
new wacky story. I am shooting, by the way, a very strange horror film coming up, which isn't on my bio, but the guy who created Ghost Whisperer.
Oh.
He's directing and producing it, and it should be rather interesting and
Well,
creepy.
And I'm excited about A League of Their Own.
Me too.
The news has come out. We know
Yes.
some of the cast members in
Yes.
it. We know that it's a TV series based on the movie.
Yes.
Somebody from the original cast is back
Yes.
in a different type of.
And it's really about what really went on, not the Tom Hanks-ified
Yeah.
thing, but that most of these women were gay. And also not allowed to play with black women. And, it's all about that struggle of trying to keep it secret because otherwise you get kicked off the team.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be really good.
I mean, I
love
don't know.
the people in charge, Abby Jacobson and Will Graham. I love them. So hopefully they'll bring me back.
I don't know. It's a little far-fetched. Lesbians and baseball and
Yeah,
softball.
that's
Who
true.
would have thought?
How dare they?
Anyway, we're excited. Thank you for joining us today because you have very special insight, having spent so many years on the stage, also as a mom.
I am 107 years old.
Well, according to your IMDb, I'm like, better not print this out. Greenpeace will call.
Don't you dare.
Yeah. But also being a mom,
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about mom themes and working actors and how all these themes come across. You have a very special connection with moms because of my relationship
and
with my
I
mom.
feel the moms in this show are dealing with the things that I have been dealing with. It's a rough time to be a teenager in this world right now.
Well, we're going to talk about that because it is a rough time to be youth, and we're going to see from the two different characters' point of view, it's a rough time to be a parent.
Oh,
There's no amount of money or any
medication.
that would be like, hey, now's a good time to have a kid in this age of social media,
It's hard.
politics, the social unrest that's happening. But I do think from what I've heard is, the youth are now growing up with terms like non-binary. LGBTQ is whether the government's getting involved or not. The kids are like, who cares?
They
Just
don't
like,
care at all.
Right.
They're just like, shut up and leave us alone.
Yes.
We just want the planet not to burn up.
Yeah, well,
that's not a lot to ask.
Anyway, so on that note, I want to bring
Speaking
in.
of burning up, we need the AC back on, don't you think?
Are you having hot flashes?
I don't think
It's my
so.
Latin heat. It's turning you on.
Okay, it is. Give me a
There's
kiss,
your
you.
grinder profile. Tony, you can make sure that the air conditioning is on. So, Dear Evan Hansen, Broadway touring production. It's at the Amundsen Theater until the end of July, and I had the absolute benefit of going to see a matinee performance, which I
Lucky.
usually like going opening night. I like going weekend nights because matinees tend to be a little bit quieter crowd. This show was entirely powerhouse, and we have the benefit of the two actors who played the two moms here. So let me formally introduce them. Theater is alive and well. Coleen Sexton, who plays Heidi, starred on Broadway as Lucy when she was 20 years old in Jekyll and Hyde, as well as a TV version, Jekyll and Hyde, with David Hasselhoff, by the way.
Woo.
The national tours include Wicked, Legally Blonde, Chicago, and regional Mamma Mia, Spamalot, End of the Rainbow, playing Judy Garland, which we're going to talk about. Please welcome Coleen, playing Heidi Hansen, and Dear Evan Hansen, made my bronzer run from crying from her second act powerhouse number. Please welcome Coleen Sexton.
Here, I think I unmuted myself.
Yes, you are good, girl.
Good.
Also joining us, Lili Thomas, Tisch School of the Arts grad, consummate instrument musician, as well as actor-singer, who starred recently in David Malloy's pre-Broadway run of Octet, off-Broadway in We're Gonna Die, The Hello Girls, Only Human, regional at the Kennedy Center, Lincoln Center, Berkeley rep, Milwaukee rep. Also, she is a mom in real life. Her performance as Cynthia Murphy in Dear Evan Hansen is an intimate and emotional roller coaster that doesn't give you a chance to breathe. And I was absolutely living for it. I want to see a spin-off musical about the two moms going shopping and getting drunk and being like, let's just have a moment to relax, can we? Jesus Christ. Please welcome Lili Thomas.
Hi. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay.
I love the two of you, energy, the storyline, the characters, your background, so different. And so before we start talking about some of the themes from the musical, I want to talk about growing up. So, Coleen, you're a Jersey girl.
I am.
Woo! Now, did you have any...
Do not mess with her.
Yeah, do not mess. Did you have any family in the biz, or what was kind of your first exposure to theater?
No, it's really crazy. I have not one person in my family that can hold a note.
Oh my
That's
God.
amazing.
That's
I'm just
insane.
being honest. They say it themselves. Yeah, no, I started in junior high in my school shows. Sorry, I'm trying to find a way so I can see everybody. It's not just me. Is that possible?
I don't think so.
Okay.
You're only going
All
to see what he's shooting out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I started, I had a voice teacher that just kind of heard my voice in choir and wanted to give me private lessons, and booked my first professional show actually when I was a sophomore at the Paper Mill Playhouse, which is a big,
Oh,
Wow.
I love the
seasonal
paper
show.
mill.
And it's beautiful. It was 15 minutes from where I grew up.
Amazing.
And it rained on stage. It was Singing in the Rain. So that was really fun. It's kind of still when I was still a dancer. And then I ended up in a band, a pop band over in Germany.
I was going to say called 5NY.
5NY.
In Germany.
Yep.
How young were you? Because this was before,
So it was between the ages of like 16 and 19. We started, we made a pilot. It was kind of like a version of the Monkees, you know,
Oh,
like
I
they
love the
were a
Monkees.
band, and we were going to do the actual pilot, which we did. We made the album and everything came out, but it just kind of wasn't going anywhere. It was like right around the time that NSYNC and Backstreet Boys were coming out. And which is totally dating me. It just kind of wasn't going anywhere. And I came home from that wanting to audition for more theater. And my manager had said to me, you know, there's an audition for Linda Edder's understudy in Jekyll and Hyde. And I laughed because first of all, I was obsessed with her.
Of course.
She, you know, played Lucy in the original production. I just thought there was no way this was going to happen. And I went in, auditioned, I booked it. So that my first professional show was Jekyll and Hyde, and I was 19 when I
That's amazing.
So young. When you look back, do you wish that you had a little bit more time to kind of mature and enjoy it? Or are you glad that you had success right out of the gate?
I feel both ways. I don't regret a minute of it. I do kind of wish I had a little more training. I didn't go to college. But I don't regret it. No, I would never take back that show and my experiences. I, kind of grew up pretty quick. But yeah, I did have some times though, I let loose a little bit and it really was a 19, 20, 21-year-old. But yeah. So,
and we have a number of entertainment people that listen to the show. So I would love to know, did you make any kind of mistakes being thrust in the spotlight literally at such a young age that you're like, I probably should have done that a little bit different, or I should have?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do. We all make mistakes at some point. definitely moved to LA a little too quick right after New York, I think. So I didn't kind of keep the ball rolling.
And what did your parents think about all of this? That's always what I want to know, is family involvement.
Right.
Yeah, my mom supported whatever I wanted. I had a very, very supportive family. My father passed when I was young. But she kind of like, you know, it's funny you asked that because she worked at my high school. She was a secretary at my high school. And when I was about 16, I got offered Crazy for You, the national tour.
Yeah.
I went and auditioned for Susan Stroman, and I turned it down because I just felt not ready as a sophomore in high school, not ready to go on the road. I thought I was auditioning for Broadway, and it was the tour. So I ended up, and then the principal of the high school said to my mom, well, you should have let me know. We could have figured it out. We know she's going to do this. You know, next time something comes along, we'll set a plan. We'll get her tutored.
Oh, that's cool.
On the road.
Takes
and
a
then
village.
I got the band, and then the band I tutored. I graduated with my class still, but junior and senior year I was pretty much over in Germany. I was back and forth from Germany a lot.
That has to be such a difficult decision. Number one, as a performer, but also as a parent. You know, you have this opportunity to tour with a show like Crazy for You, which I saw that touring production, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, it's that struggle. It's like, do you let a kid be a kid, or do you just take the opportunity and go with it?
Well, you have also the dichotomy of the stage parent who wants them to do that. And then a lot of times the kid doesn't want to.
Yeah.
I bump into that a lot, out here especially.
Well, yeah, it's like they just want to play Xbox or whatever.
Yeah, but mommy wants them to be on Broadway, so you're going to do it.
No, my mom couldn't have been more opposite.
That's great.
She supported me, and if I didn't want it, I didn't have to do it. But she believed in me, and her support, got me through a lot.
Did you have siblings?
I do have a lot of half siblings. There are a bunch. I have a big family, a lot older. My mom was 41 when she had me.
Oh, wow.
She just turned 84. She's still going and still, healthy and great.
Happy
Good
birthday,
for
Mom.
her. Yeah.
Just yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday, Mom.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so Lili, talking about you and your kind of experience, you were born into this literally musical family. Mom was a pianist, dad was a cellist. You started dancing at age 4. Can you just briefly list the number of instruments that you have been acquainted with?
It's funny because my parents will say I don't actually play anything, not to the caliber of a real musician. But we had a lot of instruments around the house. My parents are all classical musicians, and so everything was, when you studied an instrument, you really studied it. So I didn't really study anything. I just sort of fiddled around and was just kind of exposed to everything. And obviously, I'm very into music, so I would just pick something up, and as soon as I could play a few tunes on that, I'd move on to the next thing. And a lot of it was just accompanying myself or creating some sort of music. And then when the whole actor musician thing started getting hot, I said, I have some stuff in my back pocket I can do with this.
I tell you, looking back, I wish I would have learned piano much, much earlier.
Me too.
You know how many hundreds of dollars I would have saved on rehearsal pianists, audition pianists, show pianists?
So many.
Or I dated a piano player for a brief time.
Yes.
The only reason was because he could play the piano.
A good investment.
It was friends with benefits or
yes.
something, right?
Now, Lili, how did you make that kind of transition from musician to, okay, now we're going to add the acting, now we're going to go to Tisch, now we're going to go this route?
I mean, I was always really into musical theater. That was my rebellion against my parents. Was to do musical theater.
My father is also a classical musician, and he would have considered that rebellion as well.
Exactly. It's not real music, it's acting music.
Yes.
So they would always call me an actor because my music was rooted in the text. So I did theater all growing up, middle school, high school, but my parents were pretty strict about me not doing anything professional, as they were child musicians and wanted me to really have a life and learn how to ride a bike and go to the pool with my friends in the summer. And at the time I was really upset because I just wanted to do it. And, I sang a little bit with the Philharmonic when I was in my teens and got a taste of sort of that level of responsibility. And I think that I was pretty split and inevitably very grateful for my childhood. And so then when I went to college, that was the real beginning of my immersion into the life ahead of myself.
I mean, I think it's so rich to understand both sides of music. So my mom was a classical pianist as well.
Oh, wow.
And so I learned music by looking at the notes, and that's what you sang. And so when I would start to go audition or meet other performers that could naturally harmonize or improvise, I was like, I don't understand that at all. I need to see the actual notes or I can't do that. So I think understanding both of those kind of cultures is so important. Definitely. And Lili, I want to talk a little bit. You've talked about this in another interview. You talked about your early experience as an Asian actor, that you either too exotic or you weren't Asian enough. And I can't imagine what that kind of struggle was like. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's a different world today. I mean, it's
exactly.
I took a lot of time off to be a mom and to not be in this industry after a lot of feeling like I didn't know where I belonged. I grew up very American and, didn't really have so much exposure to my Asian heritage and culture earlier on. And so to automatically be thrown into this very Asian box, but then constantly told I wasn't Asian enough, it was just a battle that I had no control over. And, it was a struggle to have so many other people tell me what I was
Right.
at such a young age and not to really know myself well enough to speak up for myself. And I think that did contribute a lot to the steps that I took back from the industry. But I feel coming back into it, a decade later, it is a completely different world. And I'm grateful that, there's been a huge shift and to be a part of the shift now.
I want to talk to everybody about that kind of shift. And Coleen, as the white woman, there's certain Broadway looked a little bit differently even 10 years ago where it was like, here's the roles. Even growing up for me as a Latin kid, I wasn't seeing Latin actors taking Broadway roles. We were always either in the ensemble or we could do West Side Story if we wanted. Those were like our choices. So I want all of your opinion as to, we are in this kind of exciting energy of diversity. We're seeing multicultural cast. We're seeing gender swapping. We're seeing all different kinds of different energy. But do you think casting can become too woke and interfere with the intention of the show or even interfere with the intention of a character?
Do you want me to take that?
I want everybody's
Okay.
opinion.
That is a really loaded question. I will say that we only all can speak from where we are in the spectrum of things. So I just notice that I, as a woman who is over 40, it's a nightmare. That's all I can say. It's like I read for Karens now. That's not why I went to college, to read for Karens. But, there's, I think always my perspective, and because my dad was a classical musician, he used to say, Stephanie, the worst thing is going for low quality and trying to make everybody happy. And the best thing is to have an opinion, even if it doesn't make people happy. And so I feel like I have no qualms with any kind of crazy casting or unnormal, whatever you want to call it. I'm not getting the right word, but as long as it's good, I don't care. I don't care. I mean, do you disagree with that?
I certainly have seen instances in any type, even with the LGBTQ programming. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I understand the intention, but I think it can become that's what the point is rather than the production
the
itself.
show.
Or it's like,
Yeah.
hey, look who we just cast, and it becomes a headline for the media and not
It is
an enjoyable performance.
That is called stunt casting.
Yeah.
And it's basically a Hollywood thing that's never going to go away, I'm afraid. So,
But I think now people are afraid to comment and be like, hey, maybe that wasn't the right
Oh,
choice,
yeah.
just because you don't want to get canceled and you want to appear with the times.
Alexander, I'm canceling you right now for saying that.
Girl, that's why I have to have my own
Just-
show.
yeah.
I'll be canceled on the network. But I want both of your opinions because I'm sure the roles that you've been offered have definitely changed over the last even 5 years.
I mean, I will say 100% that there was not, when I saw the original Dear Evan Hansen with the original Broadway cast, I saw it, I said, wow, okay, I get it. I love this show. And I was younger, but part of me was like, I really identify as one of those moms. That's unfortunate that I'll never get to be one. I didn't think it was a possibility because most families were being portrayed not only white, but as one racial culture. And so to have a mixed race person involved in a family is very complicated, because then what does that mean? Are you implying adoption? Are you implying all these other things that are maybe not written there? And so I think that for so long I wrote it off, and it is definitely I'm shocked still that I get to be part of representing a mixed race family on stage in a show that it's not about that.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's great about it.
Yeah, it's presented without comment, without pompously.
Yeah.
Here's this family that happens.
I think as long as you don't point at it, then it's people start to accept it. I think the Brits have been doing that better than us on
many different levels.
On many different levels, but they have all kinds of people married, and nobody cares. But here it's an issue.
I find it, for me personally, it's, I'm a woman who's not able to have a child. I want to be a mother very, very badly. And I'm hoping someday I adopt. When I look at the show, they could be adopted. They could be like, I don't think race should come into the show. It shouldn't, it doesn't have to be all white. There couldn't be mixes of people, because you could have adopted a kid. And,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? And yeah. So.
And it's nice because it really highlights what I think is so special about these women is that, as a parent in any form that you feel a parent, whether it's biological, adopted, whether it's that you feel like some surrogate mother in some way to a child, the feeling of caring so unconditionally for a child is what is really highlighted in doing something like this as well.
Yeah.
What I love about
my kid's adopted, right?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, there's no difference to me. I forget he's adopted. I forget. He does too. It's weird. We're like, oh yeah, I didn't squeeze you out in a hospital. I bought you in a store.
But I think it's important that we are having these conversations as well. We're not just sweeping, because I know some kids who are adopted they have to talk about it, and they have to,
absolutely.
kind of work through it. What I love about the two moms in Dear Evan Hansen is, on paper they're so different, but at the end of the day, they want to be the best parent and they want the best for their kid above their own needs. And that's what I love about these mom characters and the strength that both of you showed on stage. It was really, an absolute love story, no matter the ethnicity, no matter class circumstance or anything. And it really was about the kids.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk more about the themes in Dear Evan Hansen, because I have a few minor quibbles with some of the themes.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Lili, how many kids do you have?
2.
Okay, so she's been through that whole thing.
Yeah.
Are they like in middle school right now?
I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh, I love 8. 8 is a great age. All right, that's done with the mommy talk. Go on.
Well, no, and it must be a difficult decision, such as being 16 and deciding whether to take a tour or not, but also saying, hey, there's an opportunity to take this role. I'm going to leave my kids at this age, and I'm going to be gone for, 6 months?
It's hard, yeah.
A year.
Oh, my God. So can you kind of work through that? What kind of conversation you had to have with your family? What kind of conversation you had with yourself?
I don't think I'm still having the conversation with myself. My whole day off yesterday was spent having a crying conversation with myself about it. It will never be easy.
Right.
It was not an easy decision. It remains not an easy decision. I think pre-pandemic, I probably would never have entertained the thought of taking a tour. The theater world has changed vastly, especially what's happening in New York right now, what's available, and spending such a long time out of work. It did change the dialogue and the thought process for me. I also think that the material comes into play. What am I leaving home to do, and what kind of story am I telling?
Exactly.
Is a part of it,
Can you fly them out?
This is actually my first time being a mother on stage.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
So that is like a whole other thing too, of having to, I can't even just pack it up into a box and put it away.
Yeah.
I have to unpack it every day.
Are they able to come visit you on
They're
the road?
coming tomorrow.
Oh, wow. How exciting. Have they seen the show yet?
No. So it's been one of my daughter's favorite albums forever. She sang the songs for her recitals at school. I mean, I'm a voice teacher at home too. I teach the songs to my students. I do different, versions of them with my students and my kids. And So they're really excited that they finally get to see it. I always said, when you're a little older, I mean, the themes are very heavy, and
very heavy.
as a parent, you have to decide, like, oh, what kind of questions am I ready to answer with them?
Yeah. Okay, before we start chatting all about Dear Evan Hansen, Coleen, I want to know your experience. Touring is not unusual for you. You've toured with some of the biggest shows. Also, kind of taking a role that has been established. I want to know your creative process as an actor, making a role your own, but still paying homage to the character and for the original direction. But it's like, okay, I'm now. Can you first tell our audience about having to take over the role of Wicked as Elphaba during the show?
Oh, wow.
Yes, I was a standby at this point for 2 weeks, and it was kind of reached that mark where you're like, all right, I got to start bringing some magazines in, because I'm not in the show. I was just standing by for Elphaba. So it was the exact day that I brought magazines, and I brought, I was kind of done watching for a little bit, and I was downstairs in the basement, and I had my headphones in, and I just happened to take them out to hear some of Wizard and I, and she couldn't get through it. And I was like, oh God. So I ran up to the stage left, and the PSM, he's like, so she'll give a sign. I said, wait, she'll call out mid-show? I didn't know this was
Oh my God.
option. So I guess she gives like a little sign to stage left, and she did. So they had in I think in like a couple minutes, they had 7 people around me putting on, and I'd never been on yet. It's my first time on.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
And there's one part in Act 1 where there's a little tiny, because Elphaba's like an Evan, right? She's on stage pretty much the whole time, except this one section in the Ozdust ballroom. So Victoria Matlock, who was playing Elphaba, had to get her mic taken out as I was in the costume, putting the mic in my costume.
Was she ill?
It was madness, but you didn't have time to worry about it, right? You just got to do it.
Was she sick, or was it just something weird that happened?
Her voice just went. I think she thought she was going to be able to. She just couldn't get through the end of, and she's got how many more songs to sing after that?
Right.
The first song.
So, and those Wicked fans know every single note too.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like,
they're crazy, like soap fans. They're the same.
Yeah, I just knew. Yeah, that was completely crazy. Yeah, it's interesting because I've been with the show since 2018.
Right.
And I've understudied both. Well, I've understudied both moms. I went on for both moms, but there were 2 different Heidis that I understudied, and it's very. You always want to make it your own, but you also need to do kind of what they're doing while making it your own. But so I think. I did keep a lot of, it's really, really hard to get it out of your body, like certain ways that you hold your body, just inflections on your voice that you get from somebody else, from watching and tracking them and learning. It's really hard to kind of step out of that and make it your own, which I think now that I'm doing it 8 shows a week, I'm trying to get that out of my system. And just kind of making it my own, which I know Michael and Stacey have both wanted me to do, is just kind of like let this live. But it is hard to go from having one way of doing it because you've understudied to now playing it and trying to,
Yeah, I think people also don't understand 8 shows a week. It becomes like such a challenge, but then it becomes a joy.
Yeah.
I toured for 1.5 years, and it got to the point where all the little nitpicky things you don't even think about. You're just there, and anything comes out of you, and it's kind of brilliant. In Equity Waiver Theater in Los Angeles, which is what I mostly can do these days, we have 4 shows a week, 3 sometimes. You just don't get into the groove. But 8 shows a week is transcendent, and I'm sure that you're going to find all the little bits of you coming out in this role the more you do it, and the other stuff will melt away. Unless it's good, then you should steal it. Because always steal things.
Of course.
But it is funny, playing the role 8 shows a week rather than stepping in for somebody for a few performances or one performance, is then your life starts to align with this kind of performance.
Yep.
So for the both of you being in this kind of heavy, let's just start talking about Dear Evan Hansen then. Mm-hmm. The both of you having to align your lives to these characters. We know Dear Evan Hansen is a very, very heavy piece. So I want to know how you approach the characters of the moms. And how you kind of have to add some lightness or joy to the characters, who pretty much don't have any joy on stage, by the way, because you can't play at one note, and you also have to be afraid of taking that energy home with you, or all of a sudden you're in this, year-long depression from city to city.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of work through the heaviness of the piece? How do you work through 8 shows of that emotional breakdown?
Yeah, it is a journey, that's for sure. It's just prepping yourself, and what I really tried to do to not bring it home with me is I really try to like watch funny shows, or like spend time with the cast, or because you can get into a place very easily if you let yourself, where it stays with you, and you have to have that outlet of joy and fun. And Lili and I will get together and have drinks in her dressing room afterwards.
Oh, fun.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
It's really nice. It's fun. But yeah, it's a tough show. And I don't really know how to answer this question, to be honest. I just warm up every show. We do the thing right before the show where we all come together and we take 3 big breaths and just go into the journey together. But it's definitely challenging, and there are times that I can't fully work up the waterworks the way, because So Big, So Small for me, I struggle with. The hard part for me, as I found out Sunday night, I called out Sunday night for my first time because my voice was just so tired.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the scene work, there's a lot of fighting between, Evan and her, and I have to find a balance because I don't think it's my singing voice that's been going, it's my speaking. And I think it's all from the high pitched yelling so that's a balance that I have to try to find. What I'm going to start doing this week is really, yeah. So.
But as an actor, that must be difficult because you want to be in the moment. And sometimes
100%.
those magical moments happen where you are in that moment. And if you're fighting with somebody, you're fighting. And I tell you, having a single mom all my life, the fights were exact conversations and fights I've had with my own mom. And it all comes from a place of love. But it stirred up so much that I felt in the moment there. And I can't imagine going through that.
I actually use my mom in some of the arguments, because I remember when she would yell, it would scare the out of me.
and it would the fights we would have would be out of frustration of she was exhausted from working 3 different jobs. He was exhausted from putting up with like the single mom and feeling kind of out of it, but them wanting them to be together is also what they're fighting about too. And the role of Heidi, you're kind of alone on stage for a lot of the show. Your scenes are pretty much with Evan, and then of course we know the first family scene is so awkward. But it's kind of,
isn't it?
but it's kind of like you're kind of alone on stage on this isolated journey as well, which also must be tough as well. You have your scenes with Evan Hansen's character, but other than that, it's up to you, girl.
Yeah. She's just that single mom trying to figure her way out, figure it out to, her job and then classes at night. So she's just trying her best.
You did an interview where you did talk about a certain part of the song that you were actually having problems with vocally for like the first couple of years. Can you talk about that? And Lili, as a vocal teacher, I would love your kind of feedback on this, but you really worked at it from the craft point, from the actual nuts and bolts of this performance, which I love hearing about.
Yeah, I for a while couldn't find. There's a section of So Big, So Small where she she hits. I think it's an E. I think I'm not good with notes. I'm just all about the ear. And I'd come up short a million different ways, and I couldn't find. Basically, I've been working with my voice teacher because I think since Wicked. After Wicked, when I did Legally Blonde, and I kind of lost my mix voice, right? So the belt mix. So I would be belting it, and it would blow my voice out. And I just recently kind of found it again. And working with Matt Farnsworth, who's an amazing vocal coach, he kind of saved my voice. And now I've just found the right placement for me to be able to do it, that many shows a week.
And sometimes you have to break it down from that point of view, and especially if you're playing an alphabet, you can't go full out every performance because you will not have a voice, and that's just all there is to it. But it's hard, when you have the audience expecting that moment,
Yeah. You just have to sing it, put it in the right place.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
Nope. As Elphaba, I was definitely mix belting, or I could have never done it. Yeah, but there's ways to mix and still sound really powerful.
Lili, I want to know about your warm up, also dealing with this heaviness, but also approaching it with the you kind of feel alone on the road without your family that you haven't been separated for. But it's like, are you preparing as the actor? Are you preparing as the character? You still have that energy as Lili, the person. So how do you kind of work through that heaviness, and what's your warm up kind of like?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of stillness. In the beginning, when I first got on the road and I didn't really know anybody, it was a lot worse because I would go home after the show and I would just sit by myself and wallow in the depression of the character. I think that what Coleen was saying, the more we can all laugh together. I know that scene, Heidi at the Murphys, is so awkward, but it's so wonderful to finally see Coleen on stage, because we love to hang out backstage and whatnot before and after the show, but during the show we really don't see each other until that moment.
Right.
And, it's gotten a lot better as we've developed these relationships with each other off stage. There's a certain amount of support that I think helps you feel not as vulnerable in those moments, and so therefore you don't have to take them home so heavily at the end of the night. And just sort of with Cynthia, she's going through these stages of grief, and grief isn't always the heaviest sadness, and that's sort of what I try to incorporate into my version of this woman is when you've lost a loved one and you miss them, and you go back and you work on all the things that went wrong, but then you are overwhelmed by an amazing memory. And then, and I think that's really sort of what I try to latch onto with her, is that why she latches onto Evan is that he's providing her that levity in her, journey through this.
Do you think she finds hope there? That's where she finds
Exactly.
hope. Yeah.
And I think that, working on my relationships with the Evans, and really, as I'm getting to know them, getting on that stage and hearing them and believing them and wanting to care for them, now we all know each other. We all care for each other as actors, as human beings. And so that's definitely not lost on me, and not lost in the integration through the character.
So let's get to some of the nitty gritty of the role of Cynthia. The perfect family, of a certain class. From the outside, it looks amazing. Growing up in Orange County, I know exactly what that looks like. But then we see that there's so many problems that Cynthia has with connecting, including her husband. It's that idea we don't really know what's going on behind closed doors. Money doesn't solve all problems. With the current shootings that are happening all over the U.S., especially the youth shootings, the school shootings, also the youth committing suicide, especially in the LGBTQ community, which it's increasing at such a high rate, there's always that question, where are the parents? Is it the parents' fault? Should Cynthia have done more for Connor? Is it fair to put any blame on her? It's such a loaded question.
I feel this a lot. I live in Westchester, in a very nice neighborhood. My kids go to private school. I'm friends with lots of people who have the appearance on the outside. Not me. I mean, I'm divorced, but lots of people have the appearance on the outside that I have the perfect family. I have everything that I would need to create and make a happy life. And it really is true. Money is a facade, and it is a nice blanket for all of the problems that everybody has. I do think that what I connect with most with Cynthia is this generational divide between the exposure. When I was a kid and when my parents were parenting me, it was a little more similar to maybe their own experience. It's like, go outside and play, go find a friend and do something, ride your bikes around the neighborhood.
Right.
You say, I know this neighborhood, I know my neighbors, I know the people that they're going to encounter. It's just a different world now. The exposure, you can't control what your kids are exposed to on any kind of similar level as to when I grew up.
That's true.
And I think that's a huge fear of mine in parenting, and trying to not be overbearing, but trying to be as aware of everything I need to be to keep them safe. But the stakes are so much higher now, and you know, with technology and the internet, and you know, there's only so much you can do, and what they're going to be exposed to, even if it's not what you're allowing them to do, but what their friends have done and seen and watched 100%. And then communicate to them, or what's left up on a computer at school. You know, there are so many factors here that were never even thoughts in my parents' heads when they were raising me.
It's such a scary time, especially with, you know, certain factions so angry towards each other. You know, you're afraid to go to school. You're afraid to go to a pride event. You're afraid to be honest with who you are with your friends. It's such a scary, scary time. But then you're also afraid to be honest with your parents because you're trying to grow up on your own, become your own person. It's like, it's such a scary time, and there is no guidebook. There is no right or wrong. And when when a situation like suicide happens, you know, there could be nobody to blame. There could be everybody to blame. It's such an awful, awful tragedy that I can't imagine having to go through, either as a single mom or with the full family or everything. Everybody just seems so disconnected. And that's where I found most of the sadness is that everybody was like isolated, even in the same
even
family.
at trying their best. You
Right.
can see, you can see Larry, you can see Cynthia, you can see Heidi. Everybody's trying and everyone's failing in some way, because there is no rule, like you said, no rule book to follow that says this will yield a positive result. And that's what I love thinking about that when we sing Map, which is the first song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I mean, there were never truer words. There is no map. Nobody can tell you what to do to be a better parent. And, you know, everybody's just trying to do something good. And there are many moments within this piece where both mothers are trying their best and making decisions that fail the people who depend on them.
And so here's my experience with watching the character of Heidi. I felt my self-defense was real high at the beginning of the show because I felt that her character was being vilified for being gone all the time. And having been in that household, I know the necessity to put food on the table, to provide for your kid. Sometimes you have to be gone working 3 jobs. That's what my mom did. But for the moments we were together, there was this absolute joy, sense of humor. I never felt so isolated the way that Evan Hansen did. But for you, Coleen, working through this character, I mean, she's kind of painted to be, you know, the bad parent. And it's like she's doing literally everything that she possibly could.
She literally is, you know, it's like, you know, what else can she do? But, you know, her husband left her to go have another family with, you know, and they have new kids. So it's like, this is, and it is frustrating to think that, you know, the audience sees her as doing bad, but she's really doing good. But it's, you know, what else, what other choice does she have? Right. Really, you know, it's, you know, when you're doing that many things, it's why you forget we were supposed to do tacos tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, and because she's all over the place because she's just trying her best, you know.
That one hit home. I was like, they forgot taco night. I mean,
how can you do that?
Because it symbolizes so many other things. And I remember going through high school and being bullied. The only safe place I had was my time with my mom. And we would watch soap operas, by the way. That's how I know how convoluted they used to be. But that was like the only special time that we had, which was so important because it fueled me. It gave me the confidence to go back to school. I want to know from both of you, what do you think the message of Dear Evan Hansen is?
I believe it's all about connection and having outlets to talk to people, and you know, that there's connection is the big one for me. You know, being able to converse and open up and not be scared to, you know, holding stuff in is a very scary thing. I mean, it's what leads a lot of people to suicide or hurting themselves, or but there, and we are in our website has a bunch of self-help websites you can go to, and we can go to on our website.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off of that completely, and what you were saying before about fear being so much a part of this culture right now, I think that the main message, and it's, you know, it's in the end of act one song, but it's that you are not alone, and whatever your thoughts are that you may feel, oh, nobody else feels like this, or someone will judge me for thinking or feeling this way, whatever that feeling is, there is somebody who has felt it too. And so to be able to communicate, and you see what happens and what Evan gets wrapped up and into by not being able to communicate, and he's crippled by his fears. So I do hope that everybody who's walking away from the show, and a lot of kids want to come see the show, and their parents bring them. And so I am very aware that for every kid or tween or teen in the house, there's usually an accompanying parent there. And it's sort of like these two perspectives at the same time. And I think Coleen and I, I take that responsibility. I don't take that lightly of also being able to show the parents in the audience that whatever you feel like you're failing at, every mother at some point is feeling that as well.
100%.
Yeah. And on top of that, I think that's the beauty of our show is everyone that's in the audience can probably connect to one of the characters on stage, because first of all, they're written brilliantly. The characters sometimes I find myself saying lines from the show and I'm not meaning to, because everything is just written so well. And right. The storylines from obviously struggling teens to parents grieving, and single parents trying to make it. There's always someone that you can connect to in the show.
Well, it's funny. It's like, is there a hero of the show? I mean, it's not Evan. Who's the hero of the show? Is there one?
I do think that everybody, it's showing the same issue in every type of person. That's what's so amazing about this show. It's showing it's showing guilt, it's showing anxiety, it's showing a frustration or a lack of direction, self-doubt. It's showing all of those different feelings that everybody has, no matter how old you are, what your relationship status is, what your job is, that they can be universal.
How has playing this role changed you the most in your personal life?
Well, I'm just completely aware to all the guilt that I have for not being around my kids. So I think that my listening, I think, has gotten better. I try to be more open and not as reactionary, and to try to listen better in my daily life.
Yeah. How has it changed me? I think that I'm, I always considered myself in this business more of a singer, and being able to play a role with such heavy acting. It took a long time for me to get Heidi in my system and really feel connected to it. Since I was starting as an understudy, but I just feel like it's challenged me a lot as an actress and not just a singer that's, mainly singing and, other shows. But this is like it's like a play with a really heavy play with really great music.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, again, I'm what we talked about earlier. I really try to get out of it though, the sadness of it, because I do connect, even though I'm not a mother, at least of yet. Everything I went through a lot of stuff last year. I actually recovered from breast cancer. And it's taken away any kind of ability for me to have a child. So I'm using some of that in the show. But again, trying to, keep it light when I come off the stage as much as I possibly can. Well,
congratulations on getting through that.
Thank you.
Sending all my wishes. I mean, I have to tell you, the performance on Sunday was very emotional. And in some ways, it's like, God damn. But it also, like you said, it's like there's hope at the end. And it's like,
I think to me, the show is also about there is no good or bad.
Right.
People are complex. And that's that. You can't put a person in a box as bad mom. You just can't. And I think that's why it's a good show.
And sometimes we're the heroes. Sometimes we're the assholes.
Yep.
Sometimes, you know,
We
want fame at
mistakes.
the cost of everything, you know. Sometimes we post stuff we shouldn't post. Sometimes we say comments that we shouldn't. So, yeah. Ladies, thank you so much. I know you have to run and do a show. But what an absolute joy to chat with you, especially, like I said, having seen it. It's at the Amundsen till the end of July, and then it's going to be touring all over the place. So definitely get your tickets and see these fabulous ladies in a fabulous production. Can you tell our audience where you want them to find and follow you?
Yeah, sure. I'm Call Sex. My last name's Sex. COLSEX 79 on Instagram.
Love it. And
And
Lili?
I am at the Lili Thomas on Instagram.
Now, Lili, are you doing online vocal coaching during this whole process?
I have a bunch of students who are waiting for me to feel like I've settled into the part enough to integrate that back in. What I've noticed on these double show days, and this is all very new for me. I didn't, you know, I wasn't a part of this company before. I didn't really know the piece all that well, aside from seeing it originally. And I'm still trying to balance what do I have to do in my day to be as vulnerable and broken down on stage and to be okay with it. So I think as soon as I start to find a good rhythm, I'll start integrating my students back into my schedule.
How exciting. Thank you. I love chatting with you so much. I love the behind the scenes, and I love the approach. You know,
You didn't get your info about snacks, though.
Oh, yeah.
Show snacks. What show snacks do you like? Rapid fire show snacks. Go.
I mean,
Always Lay's potato chips, baby. The good for the boys.
I love potato chips as well. Potato chips. And I'm horrible singer. I don't have to really sing so much in the show. Again, like I was a singer musician for a long time, and this is a really amazing opportunity to dive into this very book heavy part. So I definitely have cheese in my refrigerator.
Cheese. I love these ladies with their cheese and their chips.
Now I'm just going to have
a bar in my dressing room too, which is very important for after the show.
Yeah, I love that. In my mind now, like if I come back and see the show, I'm just going to imagine you guys are like whooping it up with wine and cheese until we come to that scene in the living room. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Have a great show. Have a great run. And Stephanie, where can people find and follow you?
Oh, on Twitter, I'm at Erbness, ERBNESS. And Instagram, I'm Stephanie _Erb_official. Somebody picked that for me, and now I hate it, but I believe it.
I do have to say, I had heard one of the questions that you were going to ask was about our TV shows that we like.
Yes.
And I have to say, Ray Donovan is one of them.
There you
I had so much fun on that show.
One of the best shows on TV ever.
I loved working with Liev. He's really good.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk about the Emmy nominations. Some
Oops,
snubs.
mistake.
Parker Posey, where are you? Anyway, that's a whole other show. Anyway, ladies, thank you. Have a great show.
Thank you.
That's another episode of On the Rocks. You never know what we're going to talk about. Special thanks to our guests, my guest co-host, our engineer, Tony Sweet, our social media clip editor, Alexis Mendez, researcher, Mama Rose, the crew over at Davidson and Choi Publicity, especially Peter and Victoria. Thank you. Please like, share, subscribe so we can continue bringing this programming your way. Coming up, we have pop star and choreographer for Eminem, Nicki Minaj, Bobby Newberry is here. We also have RuPaul's Drag Race, Bob the Drag Queen, and Monet Exchange together. We also have cast members from Lin-Manuel's Tony Award-winning show Freestyle Love Supreme. They're coming on. They're going to do some improv hip-hop theater.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy. More importantly, stay tipsy. This has been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air. Find everything On the Rocks for free at OnTheRocksRadioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.